Welcome to Empirical Pea Pod. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. If you could, please subscribe, follow, share, like, comment, whatever the hell happens when we do these things. I'm your host, Tim Day. Let's get to the show. Yeah, when did you move to the city?
I just celebrated my 8-year anniversary over Halloween.
Like your 8-year married anniversary?
No.
Anniversary of
My Humboldt Park residency anniversary. Yeah,
nice.
So it's been a while, man. It's been a ride.
That's crazy. In my head, you're still only like 25.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, Tim. I am a silver fox now. Wait till you see this head.
That's crazy. I guess let's start from the beginning. Here with my friend Adam Binkley, who I haven't talked to in forever. I'm very excited to catch up and see where you've been out and about doing cool stuff, hopefully. You're from Oswego, though, right?
Yeah. I went all throughout, kindergarten through high school. My parents actually still live out there, so.
Nice. So you're just a lot young. How old are you now?
34, I think. Yeah, 34.
Okay. That's not that much younger now.
Yeah, I'm still feeling cute, so.
Good luck with that. It goes away eventually. That's not that bad, though. I don't know why. I always thought we were like 10 years different, but it's only like 6 years.
You're 40 now, right?
Yeah, it's gross.
Did it make you feel a certain way? I know I felt a certain way when I was 30. I quit my job, and just
yeah. It actually didn't, surprisingly. I was surprised to kind of be like thinking about it my whole life. I was like, gross. That sounds terrible, and like I'll make fun of it now. But once it happened, I was like, this just feels normal. Like it's fine.
I think it's a lot of It's how you feel on the inside, really. Like, the age is just a number that was, But, I've been enjoying my 30s at least more than my 20s. In my 20s, I was just an idiot. So,
Yeah, that's what I was talking to my friend on the last episode about how, like, your 20s is kind of just to be a sack of shit. And then your 30s, you kind of slowly figure out. And then by your 40s, you're like, now I can do whatever I want.
I wish, I in my head, I thought I'd have more money by now, but I don't.
I feel like no matter where you are in life, that's going to be a thing, probably.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
What did you go to college after high school?
I tried. I gave the college try for about a month. Went out to community college at Wabanzi, and it was kind of a mess because my parents were very strict, so I was asked to move out and then have a job and then go to college at the same time. So I just got overwhelmed, and I had to leave school just to survive and have income. And I think that's when I met you, roughly, or shortly thereafter, working at...
I think you were just out of high school. You started working at Best Buy.
Exactly. Pretty much.
Yeah.
I think it was 07 or something like that. Yeah, 07, I think it was when I started there.
Yeah. I started in November 06, so yeah. But I started out in DeKalb, and then I did well there, so they sent me to Oswego.
Yeah. And you were my boss pretty much. I think shortly after I got hired on. So
that's true. Until they restructured and were like, "Remember when you were a boss? You're not a boss anymore. We're taking all your money."
At least you stuck around.
Yeah, for a while. My favorite was the people that they gave all the severance packages to, and then rehired. But whatever.
Oh, did they? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was. There's a reason they're where they are now. They've made some choices.
Yeah,
but
or lack thereof choices.
Yeah, you said your parents were really strict.
Yeah, my parents are they're hardworking people, and
sure.
And in my house it was I actually kind of grew up in two households. One of them was a foster care family full of, I think there's at one time about 13 kids, and 14 with me.
Wow.
So that's that's how I spent my day pretty much every day. And then my parents were not married until I was 5, so they were kind of in the process of dating and trying that out, and then they have some asshole kid that just they got to take care of and feed, and so and then so it was kind of a dual existence. I was in chaos. There's 13 kids, so and spent most of my time doing that. But then at home, my parents kind of overcompensated for my behavior in school was slipping and stuff like that. But I think I was kind of looking for attention too, just because I didn't really see them a lot.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, getting in trouble a lot, stuff like that. So it was just kind of a strange upbringing.
Yeah, because I was say one of the things too is I mean this not in an asshole way, but you're an angry kid.
Yeah.
And now it makes sense because I feel like that's one of the things that we bonded over was just being angry about our lives.
Right. It didn't feel fair.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't ask to be here, but they kind of threw me in the pool. But I think I learned later in life, even though, I struggled with anger for a long time. I did find it it was kind of interesting because I was able to work harder towards it because it just wasn't getting me anywhere later in life. In friendships, relationships, different bands that I was in and stuff I was just coming off like a prick to everybody, and I just realized I need to find some sort of inner peace. So I think I'm still on that journey permanently, I guess, but it's something I just had to get through.
That's one of those constant evolutions. Being mindful of it is the biggest step, right? Once you at least know, then it's kind of easier to kind of go that direction. You start recognizing your triggers and stuff like that.
Yeah. I was just talking about that the other day. That it's triggers, and I think it's important when you're on that journey to be able to step back and kind of realize why you feel the way that you do in your body sometimes. If I notice myself, I try to catch myself, I get really tense and I get almost hot in the inside, my skin is crawling in a way. But then I'm what can I do? And I focus on, I got to breathe a little bit, take a step back, and then kind of, sink in okay, where are these emotions coming from? And, why am I behaving this way? Stuff like that. And, especially being married, because then somebody sees you in that process. And sometimes it's ugly. Sometimes it's also beautiful. Just depends. Depends on how you respond to it. So.
That's true. It is tough. We worked at Best Buy for a while too. I feel that. Realistically, it was probably a couple of years, but we had a lot of fun times. I got in a lot of trouble. Remember when we used to put the sign on the warehouse door, check the attitude at the door?
Yeah, and then we used to put the. Were you around when we used to put a cone on the opposite side of the way?
Yeah, so nobody could come in.
Yeah, well, because the thing is that a lot of employees at Best Buy, none of us have our shit together typically, but people would come into the warehouse with the confidence that they're going to ask me for a favor.
Right.
But then in that process, you're charging in, and then you just get derailed. You're going to hit that cone, and it's going to hit you.
That's right. Well, before we got onto you were talking about Vanessa, she actually hired me at DeKalb.
Nice.
She was the first person that I met with the company, and we worked together there, and then we ended up in Oswego. She's actually awesome. She's one of the few people that I worked with that I was I would still hang out with them. She always seemed cool.
Oh, yeah. Vanessa's, one of my best friends to this day. Pretty much from day one, we've just always hit it off and got along and bonded over, music and just built a friendship. And even during that time, during severance of the reorg structure from Best Buy, even still after that, we were hanging out, and I don't know. It was just we've been there for each other during hard times too. So it's definitely a quality friendship.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think her and I probably could have been closer if we weren't, because I was a supervisor and she was a manager, and we had to be certain things.
Right. Yeah, I'm just some some mop top asshole. It's so it was a pretty easy going relationship. She actually kept me employed because they definitely wanted to fire me.
Oh yeah, they definitely
but
wanted to fire you.
yeah, and I get it. I'm a little rough around the edges sometimes, but you
Yeah.
know,
I always love though, like we're really good workers. We just want to do our job, and in retail, a lot of times your job, you end up doing things that have nothing to do with your job, and they expect you to just do it with a smile, and you're like, okay, but now I can't do my actual job because you're being a dick.
yeah, and it's like once I mean that's how I work even in my own life too. It's like I need to have the thing that's in the front of my mind be in the front of my mind, not this other crap that you're trying to you know throw me off with or whatever. And I mean, I did it just to pay bills and stuff. I was out living on my own, but I mean, yeah, it was just wasn't sustainable. But I did meet some cool people from that, including you, obviously. So
Yeah, that's probably the main one. At that time, you were living in a house in Yorkville with a bunch of musicians.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, what was that like?
What was that like? It was interesting because there was, I think, one, two, three. I think there was six of us, and one kid was just living in just straight up living in a closet. I don't know how he did that, but
Let's say how there was not 6 bedrooms.
no, definitely not. Yeah, but yeah, it was pretty cool though. I mean, we had a decent sized yard. We didn't have hot water for about 6 months, so that kind of sucked.
Yeah, but you guys were all musicians, all young kids, like early 20s.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I actually just reformed a band with two of the kids that were living there
Really?
recently. Yeah, so
That's
it's
awesome.
nice to kind of reconnect with them again. But yeah, it was just a lot of just kind of throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, basically, and you know, just yeah, it was a wild ride, but we did that for about 2 years, I want to say.
Yeah, because I remember I came over a couple times and jammed. You know me, I'm a big old jam whore, so.
Yeah, I remember that. Going to that restaurant that was over there, Casa Santiago and all that.
Oh, yeah, I played there a couple times too with my friend Jillian.
I forgot about her. Yeah.
Yeah, I recently actually just not reconnected, but like saw that Jen's still around also. She like, say what you want about her, she was incredible at the piano at least.
Yeah, I mean, I fell in love with Jen from the first day I met her, and then, there was some hardships on her end
Sure.
for a while there, but
Yeah, it bums me out sometimes when I'm gonna say this and I don't mean it as harsh as it sounds, because Jillian has an amazing life and Jen has her life, and like they're happy and they're doing their thing, but they were so good at what the music they were making, and I feel like I would have loved to seen them pursue that instead, like some alternate reality somewhere, like they're doing that, and I would love to see it.
yeah, I know, and that's the thing is, it's like, especially as you get older in life, it's like, how do you keep that inner flame going? Because to me, like, music is always, I mean, and a lot of the friends I've met too, like, to so many of us, it seemed like a sort of a calling. I guess it's cheesy, I guess, to say it that way, but kind of what it was is that, and like you said, you saw like natural essence of like just pure talent in some of these kids, and like, I mean, I remember Jillian too. Like, I mean, just incredibly talented. Her voice, I remember her like using loop pedals and just like kind of blowing my mind too. Like with some of the stuff she would do, and Jen the same way. It was just incredible to see her like kind of get into this like trance when she would go and perform and stuff. I'd be like, okay, girl, I see you. So it was nice.
Yeah, that is awesome. So after that house goes away, and after you leave Best Buy, where did you end up after Best Buy?
Yeah, so I left Best Buy. I think I was there for almost 6 years. Surprise! Wow, I kind of forgot about that.
That's crazy.
But so then I went to Guitar Center.
Oh, that's funny because I worked there also.
I can't believe it. Wait, in the one in Naperville, or
yeah,
what the
it
hell,
must.
Man, I didn't know you did that.
Yeah. I left Best Buy in '09. I think I worked at Guitar Center through 2010 to like 2012. So you must have came like a year after.
Yeah,
I left.
I think I started in 2012, so I must have came
right after.
Yeah, like literally like right after you left. I
Yeah,
wish I would have known that. Dude. I definitely would have followed you into that.
did Christian work there when you worked there?
Yeah, yeah,
I just
yeah.
did an episode with him the other day because I'm still friends with
Oh,
him.
really?
Also, yeah, he's still doing amazing things.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, Christian's awesome. Yeah, he used to work in the drum section, and then I was kind of all over the place, but I was the audio manager towards the end.
Very nice.
And oddly enough, I ended up getting fired. It was the only jobs I did get fired from, but
Really?
it ended up kind of working.
That's
out
kind of crazy because one of the things Christian and I were talking about is how it was not a traditional retailer. Like it was for musicians by musicians for a while at least. And how the hell did you get fired?
I mean, first of all, I worked with some there's like kids that I literally grew up with that were working there with me, and none of us made a lot of money, obviously, because that's just how it goes. Sure. But I mean, it was the best job I ever had because I got to see, especially my favorite thing was like, especially in audio, like where you see kids that are trying to graduate, like, you know, they may have been dabbling with guitar and piano and stuff, but that you could see that they were starting to believe in themselves more. And then they would start wanting to, all right, well, how do I take the next step? And how do I get recording, and what kind of gear do I need to buy? And that can be overwhelming. But I used to enjoy that, like being able to like see people, just kind of like just start that journey, but like just see like their passion around it. But back to your question, I mean, I got fired over the dumbest shit ever. Like I sold a guitar for like $700 to this guy, and he gave me cash, and I was a manager, so we were able to put the money in the safe. Yeah. Basically, there was a safe in the back room where you could, and then you had to close it out in the system or whatever. So I did that, and this was on the day before Thanksgiving, as a matter of fact. So, happy anniversary of that as of today. Interesting. And so anyway, so I get home. I'm at my family Thanksgiving, and I get a phone call, and they're like, "Hey, man, where's that $700 cash that you closed out earlier?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? I put it in the safe." They're like, "Yeah, but it's not here." I'm like, so I'm just like, well, I guess I'm screwed. And I loved that job so much that I was just going to pay it out of my own pocket to just like give. But my mom actually convinced me not to, because then she was saying that would make it seem like I stole it, but I didn't. But they, so I didn't pay the money back. And I mean, plus I didn't really have it, but it's a lot of money at 22 years old or whatever it is. But so then basically you're like, well, you're gone.
That's so bogus. Like, I got let go from Best Buy for the same kind of bogusness, whereas like it wasn't my fault, but they made it seem like my fault. Mm-hmm. I hated that stuff, but you don't work retail now, do you?
No, I got out of it in, let me see, 2018. So I went from Guitar Center, and then I was I worked for Samsung with their like cell phones and all that. Yeah. And I did that actually for like 5 years. So, but that was actually like also in a Best Buy store, but working for Samsung, so I didn't have to deal with like all the Best Buy bullshit. Yeah,
I always wanted to have a vendor job like that. I feel like, because I like Samsung, and I'm like, ooh, that'd be cool. Just go somewhere and talk about them the whole day.
I mean, it was fine, and like it was like probably the easiest job I've ever had. But it's just like, I don't know, all they wanted you to do is just like pretty much paint a smile on your face and just like help people fucking recover their email passwords or whatever, like. Like, so I just got like drained from it, and that was saying too. That was like just before I turned 30, so I'm like, if I don't leave this now, I'm never gonna do it, and then I'm gonna regret it later in life. Like, so I just left and then started pursuing music and moved to Chicago, and basically, just, nice. I don't know.
When's your birthday?
May 30th, Gemini, baby.
Nice. And when were you starting to feel that pull? You said around 30, like a couple months before?
Yeah, like 29. And
because I don't want to freak you out, but that's 100% the return of Saturn is like 29 and a half, somewhere in there.
Oh yeah, my wife's a tarot reader. We have these conversations quite often. Awesome. I fall in love with all Aquarius people, and Aries too. I feel like literally all of them. I just can't help it.
Yeah, I'm an Aries.
I know you are.
I can't help it either.
I know.
So, well, great. That covers the last chunk all the way up to Chicago. In between that, though, from the Yorkville house till getting to Chicago, you were in a bunch of different projects before you started what you're doing now. Like, what kind of was there anything substantial in there?
I mean, I felt like foundationally music always made sense to me, and but I couldn't be taught by another person because sometimes
Right.
I zone out. That's why I kind of sucked in school and stuff. But if I can like sit down with a book and just read and like absorb things very slowly at my own pace, that's kind of what I did early on in life. And then, joined a few projects, and I was only one that would sing, or at least or could sing, I guess at the time. So it was just kind of this like mixed match of like different each of us like writing different songs and trying to construct them together. It was fun, but then I felt at a certain point that I needed to step away from it, and I wanted
Yeah.
to like understand each instrument just better, like on my own, and just kind of grow up like internally, mentally, because it's a whole process. And then you have to not only understand the nuance of drums, piano, guitar, like all that stuff, but then you have to figure out like how to make it not sound like crap and make it like sound professionally produced. So
Right.
I all the years that I worked retail, pretty much every cent that I had, apart from rent, was put towards gear. And and then I just, I mean, was in a relationship at the time, so like just got a 2 bedroom apartment, and the second bedroom was my studio, and that's just kind of how I started shifting away from like doing collaborative stuff to kind of looking inward and just trying to understand myself better musically. So
So you've kind of gone then in like basically Prince or Stevie Wondered it, where you kind of trying to visualize each instrument and then master each one. Like, because you can play guitar, you can play drums, you can play bass, you can sing. What do you? So usually, like a singer songwriter will have like a melody in mind, and then they'll kind of build from that, right? Is that what you find that you kind of do the same thing, or because you're self taught, you have like a little bit of a different style?
I mean, I felt like a lot of songs when I was younger, for sure, kind of just started on guitar. Rhythm was kind of the first thing that I really tried to focus on, because I think rhythm is a thing that is like the absolute first music language that was ever created. I can imagine 30,000 whatever years ago, people kind of banging on walls or rocks and stuff and kind of talking to each other that way. So musically, I started
Yeah.
to like foundationally get rhythm down first, and then so a lot of the songs I would like build the extra accompaniment and instrumentation was around guitar, and then eventually actually started kind of understanding piano even a little bit more, like visually piano made more sense to me.
Yeah.
So I was just I became obsessed literally with like each thing, and yeah, so I try to create like the most like primal you know songs that I can, and try to just let all my demons escape out into the instrument or whatever, I guess.
Yeah, it's incredibly therapeutic, right? Like to be able to express yourself through any kind of musical thing like that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's something you can grow for like the rest of your life, because no matter how good you are, I, there's definitely somebody way better than you out there.
That's true. Yeah. Well, and then I think as you mature too, you start realizing like that idea of growth is a personal thing instead of trying to keep up with other people or do stuff because it's cool. You just do stuff that the song requires, and you start realizing like, because I feel like when I started, I wanted to be flashy as hell, and then as I grew up, I was like, oh, every song doesn't need this. It's too much for most songs. I just need to play. I'd rather be in the pocket chilling and making the song better than worried about how I'm coming off.
No, a thousand percent, and I think a lot of people start that way because it's like it's easy to wrap your identity in like it starts off as like you're probably a teenager, I'm guessing, when you started playing too, and it's like
Yeah.
it's like you're just in a band and like hanging out with friends, and just to even like have a group of friends to be around, I think was fulfilling enough at the time. But then then you start everybody's got their fragile egos and stuff like that, which happens especially early on. Sure. And then, I mean, later in life when I started doing it alone, and that was part of the journey, I think it was more just whenever I felt alone, I just went in the studio and I, had my music buddies were kind of my instruments basically, and and it just kept me, like you said, it's therapeutic.
Yeah. I'd be curious too, because like we already talked about, like, you've had an interesting upbringing and anger issues and stuff like that. Do you feel like there was a point, because you've always loved music, that's the other thing that we bonded over besides hating everything, was music, because you showed me a lot of cool stuff I'd never heard, and I feel like I was able to show you some stuff you had never heard, and we rarely ever fought because we were too busy fighting the world. But was there a point in your love of music that you feel like a shift where it was like, okay, this is literally like helping me mentally, like this is definitely changing my whole demeanor? And because music can make you feel better, it can make you feel worse, like it can 100% control how you feel. Was there an awakening moment for you for that?
It's funny you say that, actually, or ask that. I remember a moment like that hit me, and I was really sick one day, and I had just like the worst migraine ever, and I was taking pills, like, and I was trying to do anything I could. This thing is not going away. Yeah. So I just went and I just started like writing something on piano. Like I was trying to translate my headache like into a song, and within a couple, probably like 10 minutes, I noticed that it was gone.
That's cool.
And it just kind of hit me at that point where it's like, I feel like just the coordination in your body of all your limbs and your brain as kind of the fuel, like all those things connecting together is what, I mean, that's even why I started learning drums and piano and stuff too, because a lot of times you have to use both legs and feet, and I just think like that it's a spiritual connection in that sense, because I mean you have to be able to like, it's cool to get excited about what you're doing, but it's also important to be calm like while you're doing it, whether it be singing or any of that stuff. Yeah. So yeah, like that's kind of where it started to transform me a little bit more, like I would say spiritually, if anything. That's the word I guess I would go after around that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'd be curious too, just since you were like kind of putting the intention of at that moment that headache, I wonder what the vibration, what that part was playing, kind of going through all those different limbs and parts of your body. It's such a cool thing, like on every little level.
Yeah, it's so nuanced and so interesting when you really break it down, and that's the thing with music. It's like there's constant evolution of a person. If a person chooses that path, it's just like choosing love. You know what I mean? Like you gotta work through crap sometimes at first, but like once you capture like that pure just joy that you feel during certain moments, like, and then just trying to recreate that is like seriously just everything to me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You do, like you just said, you do a lot of solo stuff. You literally just put out a solo album. I thought this was actually your second one, because I feel like I had an older one from the same title.
Well, I deleted all that.
Okay, yeah, I literally, it was in my saved thing, and then I went to listen to it. It's like, this doesn't exist. And I was like, oh,
just kidding.
Maybe I just don't have it.
Yeah. No, it's. I still have a few friends that downloaded it at the time, but it's funny. After the album you're referring to, that was put out before I had left my retail job. And I remember like sitting in a fetal position listening to it, and it was finally done, and just like crying. I'm just like, dude, finally. But so anyway, long story short, I ended up going back and just deleting everything, and like I deleted all the tracks and everything around it. So like I would just force myself to like move on from it. Because it's like you can spend all the time and effort you want into something, but it's like once you get what you need from it musically, it just feels like, on to the next, which is kind of like what forced me to like stop thinking so much or overthinking and just, I guess, just using it more to grow. And that was like a maturity kind of moment thing too, where it was like we were talking about, like when you start off, you kind of want to be flashy, you want to show off your chops, but I mean, yeah. So it just kind of changed over time, and a lot of the songs on this newer album are actually, I'd say, at least 3 or 4 are from that old album that you have, and I'll send it to you again if you'd like, because it's really raw. But what I did with this album, I really wanted to focus on production. And, I had a lot more time now that I wasn't working retail to really do my homework on this stuff, because it's pretty damn tedious, for sure. Honestly. But you got to still, like, I'm still like a child in an adult's body, so I have to like nurture all those things, But yeah, so my big focus was production on this one too, and I wanted mostly to be proud of something. Like, I always knew, like, I felt like my songs were good, but I wasn't. I don't know, like it just wasn't punching. Like the songs weren't like hitting me like in the gut like I wanted them to, I guess.
I find that curious too, just because like as any kind of creator, it's hard to find a stopping point, right? Where you're like, this is done, like for sure. Because usually there's always tweaks, and like we could listen to stuff that has been done, quote unquote, for years, and still be like, I wish I could have done this or this instead. Or, there's always something more to tweak. So the idea for you to take a finished album that's already been released to the public, and instead of just being like, this is what it is for that time, but to just purge it from the timeline and start anew, I think there's something awesome about that, but also insane.
Yeah, I mean, I never said I wasn't crazy, but
that's true.
I mean, though, for me, what it really was with this album, and there's new songs on this last album I just put out too, that were more current, but I kind of like restarted just like my whole process again, and like it's like I already remembered all the things that I got from old songs and all that, but it just, this time I wanted to close the book. There's nothing I hate more than having unfinished things. I like to keep my house clean. There will be order.
Sure.
So, I mean, that was the big thing. Is just I just wanted to close it out so I could stop thinking about it and actually kind of force myself to expand. Like even like doing podcast work with people, and just writing. Like now I kind of want to transition to more instrumental music, do maybe some scoring work, just really calm stuff. I ended up joining an industrial band recently.
Interesting.
Just to kind of get out of the house more, because it could definitely be isolating. You know what I mean? Like it's yeah. I definitely have had to catch myself not like obsessing over something to the point where it's just unhealthy. Yeah. Like you have to know when to walk away sometimes.
That's true. That makes sense. There is also got to be some like just the kind of metaphorical stopping and having a fresh new start. Also has got to be very helpful.
Yeah, it's refreshing in a way, and it's I feel you have to kind of maintain like the fun behind what you're doing, and like kind of like I said, I look at it just like being a child in an adult's body pretty much, and it's like even when we were talking about like our age and stuff, it's like it really is just a number, because it's just how you feel and how you like act like towards the rest of the world, and like I think. Yeah, it's just kind of it's an intention to be able to, really care about something, but also be able to like love it enough to lay it to rest when it's time. I guess I guess that's how I see it.
That makes sense. So, what? How do you even pronounce the title? Because like I know the word self.
Self exists, so it's. I just
okay.
I switched the X and the E. I know it's a little off, but
it makes sense when you explain it. But I've looked at it for so long and been like, what?
See, that's what I want you to be doing. I want to make it think.
Yeah.
That's why I'm on this.
It makes me think I'm an idiot mostly, but
no, that's what's. I mean, and that's why I ended up I've gone through different band names, some of them terrible throughout the years, but self exists. The general meaning of it is to exist without external influence. And kind of going back a little bit, like, I mean, even when I was growing up, like I said, I mean, I lived in chaos. I wouldn't say I thrived in chaos. I lived in chaos.
Yeah, well, that's a trauma response,
right? Yeah.
Trying to survive.
Exactly. So, and what self-exist meant to me was just that, that's what it was time for. That it was time for me to quiet that old noise down and stay sort of present in that moment. And I would say in the concept of, like, pretty much in every instrument that I added for this last album, and certainly and mostly in the lyrics, my whole theme that I had the entire time was I just kept having conversations with myself, which I know makes me sound crazy, but I was having conversations with myself in present, past, and future. Like I was having conversations with my inner child. I was having conversations with the person that I wanted to be, but I was also in that moment and trying to stay, present. And I felt like that it made things come together so much quicker. Because like I think I finally got like an actual theme behind what I wanted to get from it, and yeah, I mean that was just pretty much kind of how it came to be. Yeah,
that's actually incredible. Like to even hear, just it's such a heavy thing, and I have listened to the album a couple of times. I really like it. I'll link it here when this comes out too, and I hope other people check it out. But what aside from like your normal drum, bass, vocals, and guitar, what other kind of instruments were you able to bring into it? Because I know throughout the years you've had some pretty wild shit in your possession.
Oh yeah, you might be referring to the Chinese harp, the guzheng. Yeah. You know what? I had intentions of using that on this album, but I got kind of lazy at the end, and it's 21 strings, man. I didn't really want to tune it.
Man. I mean, you could have just tuned 2 strings and probably gotten away with it. But.
I mean, yeah, it's all in the eye of the beholder. But I mean, what I really wanted to do was sort of strip this album down. I used to get crazy, like just with layering, and I mean, just taking. I think the first thing that you were mentioning, like probably a decade ago, that I put out, like that took me like 5 years just to do that. And this album only took 2, but the thing is like I wanted to kind of just keep the core of the song. I wanted to keep it as minimal as possible, and so mostly it was just like guitar layering. I was saying like most of the songs were, structurally recorded on acoustic guitar, and like so I could get the foundation of the song down, and then I started working in my low end. So like I would map out the drums. And just kind of like get like to where I started grooving a little bit, and then I do a scratch take of vocals, and that way like every time I would add something, I wanted it to only like build on the song and not take away from it, I guess, which seems obvious, but I think in that process it's easy to get carried away.
Well, it's like we were just talking about, like there's always something to tweak. It's harder than you realize to kind of like keep the song going in the correct direction and knowing when to add and when to take away, right?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true, and I think a lot of people, like if somebody doesn't play music, I think it's something that like you hear a song and you just love it, and you don't really think about it. I think a lot of times, but as kind of like for me, what's always been so fascinating about like recording and is that you have to like stay in that moment, but then you also have to be able to step away and see kind of the bigger picture, like constantly though. So it's like, I mean, it's draining for sure, but to me, like the end result, I mean, I just feel like it helps me, I don't know, spiritually.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a lifeblood. Like if I couldn't listen to music, I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, seriously. Like what the hell else is the point of being alive?
Yeah, that's like when people are like, would you rather be deaf or blind? And I'm like, blind. I could at least sit and listen to tunes all day.
Yeah. I know, dude. And then, it's like I don't want to be seeing myself aging. Like I just need to be.
Yeah, that's true. So you said you're in this industrial band, also. Is that pulling a lot creatively, or is like because you kind of felt like it was casual, like it's just something to do, or are you actually inputting a lot there as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, at this stage, I mean, the amount of effort that I've put into just growing and developing on each instrument, yeah, we're 1,000% trying to take it seriously.
Yeah.
As much as like, you know, these are friends I've known for like 15 years, so like we're always like messing around and stuff. But at the same point, like the cool thing is that now, so I have a home studio. That's where I recorded my album and everything. So it's kind of different when you're at home. Like I have a separate room for my studio, but
Yeah.
it's different now with these guys because it's like I actually get out of the house and we each pay for a practice space that we share with two other bands.
Oh, nice.
So like there's like we're splitting rent at that place between like 8 different people or whatever. But it's just cool because it's like we all like get together. Like our drummer has a kid now. Our bass player actually lives in North Carolina, but comes out here typically once a month, or if we have a show to like actually like keep up with us.
Wow, that's crazy.
but it's like we get together actually every Thursday. Well, apart from tomorrow for Thanksgiving.
Right. Yeah.
So it's different because now instead of taking like where I would normally have the reins of songwriting and composition and all that. Now all I'm doing is just being a lunatic and playing electric guitar that has. I literally have my distortion pedal on the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have like 15 songs done now, and it's just, we're about to jump in the studio, and like we're gonna start doing things even a little different with that. But the lead singer actually structurally like wrote all of the music that we're learning, and I'm just more focused on doing my windmills and. Yeah, man, yeah.
Playing and performing. That's actually cool. Like, because I like the dynamic too. Like in my main band, it was always, I was there in the trenches, writing the music or at least helping write the music and stuff. To whereas when I play with Jillian, I didn't have to think about anything. Like it was literally just follow the guitar and let her sing. And you're just kind of there.
It's a lot. It's a lot easier than people think. I mean, really, seriously, it's like look, she did all the hard work. I'm just some asshole up here, but I'm gonna try to hold it down.
Exactly.
In the back,
but it was cool because it was just as enjoyable to play those shows as it was with the other band.
Yeah, it is. They're just like it's just different. Like I feel like it just gives you different things. Like each element of those things is slightly different. Like I don't know, for your music journey. And and it's cool too because like as much as we're like trying to take it serious, like our next album is actually called Demon Orgy. So like
that is serious.
Yeah, it's very serious. And so now like I'm gonna be putting like these demon eyes that make my eyes look like just one giant pupil. When I get on stage, so I'm gonna be fucking like I just want to be spooky, like just year round, and that's the vibe that it is. It's like an industrial sort of hard rock, just sort of kind of gothic a little bit. Like I don't know, it does something for me. It brings out the kinks in me.
Sure, 1995 sounds fun.
Yeah, and more like '83, like more like skinny puppy kind of stuff. I don't know.
Fair enough. 80s, we'll do the 80s industrial.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for, man. It's time for that in my life right now.
Yeah, I agree, actually. I think that does sound super fun. I think that'll be awesome also. When in this timeline, when did you meet your wife?
Actually, you were mentioning that Yorkville house earlier. I met her there.
Really? All that time ago?
Yeah, so she was actually in town with a mutual friend that, we had people kind of coming over and buying weed or whatever we were doing at the time. And
Sure.
so one of our friends, Michael, had brought his friend Angela over. And so they were here from Montana visiting because they were going to go to a music fest. And she had a boyfriend at the time. And I'm pretty sure I had what some would consider a girlfriend, but...
that's your business.
Yeah, I mean, but so it was cool because we kind of bonded over like she was really into astrology, and she had just her voice was so beautiful. She sounded like Judy Garland when she was singing, and
nice.
but we were both just like like kind of just, we're just like some wandering kids, like just out in the world, and we just happened to meet. It was just even from like different states and like all that. So, over time, so we met at that house, and then over time we just stayed connected through even like, we'd even like send each other letters in the mail, and then it was like email, because it's like at the time you had to get like minutes for your cell phone. So
yeah, that's true. Got to top up every month.
Yeah, man. The top ups. This shit ain't cheap. I mean, it adds up, man. So we were friends, really. Just, and developed like a strong connection, like just remotely, really. I mean, because she eventually went back home, and
where was she from?
She was from Montana. And
oh, wow, because I remember when we worked together, you wanted to bike to Montana.
I did bike to Montana.
Did you actually do it?
I did.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
How do you not mention that? Like, that was awesome.
Oh, yeah, because it's just, that's like I was talking about earlier. Sometimes I have the experiences, and then I just let them go.
Yeah.
Like,
let's caveat into that real quick, and then we'll come back and finish about the missus. Tell me about this trip to Montana, how that came about, why, and what that was like.
Yeah, actually, we were going out there to see her. The band that I'm actually in now, those are the guys that were on it with me, which is part of the reason that I even joined these guys again, because I stepped away from music projects with them for a couple years to do my own stuff.
Your life is so stupidly serendipitous. I love it.
Basically I bought this just dirt ass shit bike that, like, I had no money, but I don't know, like, I was just like, I did what I could, and then I rounded up 3 of my buddies pretty much, and we started, I think, in August of, I forget the year off the top of my head, and then did it for a solid month. So it was like 2,600 miles, I think, in total. But yeah, we went through Illinois, Iowa, South Dakota, Wyoming.
Wow.
And then my bike finally just crapped out. Like, this thing was a piece of crap. And it finally just had enough. So I had to literally ditch it. I put it next to a dumpster, I think, at a state park. I'm like, if somebody wants this thing, whatever. And then I hitchhiked home, pretty much, like, but yeah, I never ended up making it out there to her. But my intention the entire time was to push and push and push, because, like, I fell in love with her, like stupidly hard in a way, like maybe even unhealthy, like, but we weren't even dating at the time. She was just like my best friend, and I'm like I would do anything to get out there.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, yeah, we did make it, and raised a little money for some charity on the way, and I don't know, just like felt good. It was the best month of my life, just sleeping on park benches. Just being filthy, just taking showers in a McDonald's sink or whatever. Like, dude, I was so stinky.
I at least love that. There's something beautiful to me about that. Just kind of fucking off on life and just going and doing it and figuring it out along the way. I absolutely love that.
It was just so, like, survivalist and just, like, awesome. And it's just like me and my buddies, like,
yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I'll never forget it. And then, like, just like the physical toll too. Like, I was just literally skin and bones when I came home.
Yeah, I'll bet. It's nice. It's nice too to have those kind of memories. Like, now that I'm getting older and a lot of my friends are missing because they're just no longer with us. It's incredible to have those kinds of stories, like, to remember and be like, man, we used to do these cool things.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, honestly.
Memories is where it's at, for sure. All right. That's such a cool story. Let's pivot back to the girl, Angela. Angela's her name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were on your... How far did you make it?
Into Yellowstone National Park.
And you hitchhiked home instead of just hitchhiking there?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, you either did or you didn't.
No, yeah, that's what happened, basically. Yeah. Now I say I guess because I'm like, well, I guess it could have been easier, but yeah, I guess I chose the work path,
Yeah, well, you're hard-headed.
Yeah, that is true. But I was doing it with other friends too. I'm like, like, I don't know, I was kind of hating my life at the time anyway, so I'm like, well,
sure,
screw it. Let me just go sweat for a little bit.
Yeah, you've got to be at a certain spot in life when you're just like, yeah, I'm just gonna leave for 30 days. Nothing matters.
I know, but also like everything matters too. Like if you give up or if you quit, you're gonna die. Like I don't know. Like,
for sure.
There's something about that just gave me like a little bit extra, push or edge or whatever around it. So.
I think it's the idea of putting your back to the wall, right? Where you're like, I can't control my life and it's raveling. I'm gonna put my back to the wall and it'll just be in survival mode, since that's what my stress is trying to do anyway.
Exactly. See, you get it. That's exactly it. And my parents were like, "What the fuck are you doing with your life at the time?" And I'm like, just don't ask me questions. Let me just do what I'm doing right now. That's it's kind of what I always wanted. But later in life, I did have to start putting things into more practical approaches. Yeah.
Well, life kind of makes you eventually, because life's mean. But so it sounds like you guys met and then kind of you guys were where you were, but it seems like pretty organic that it came back to get, or obsessively on your part, but mostly organic that you guys kind of found each other again. When, since you ruined the Montana trip, when did you guys finally reconnect?
I mean, so we ended up like when I got home from that trip, I was broke, and I actually had that's when I actually moved out of that Yorkville house that we were talking about. And I had some beefs like with some of the other roommates there. Like, it's a whole thing.
Yeah,
but
I remember.
It's fucking like Anyway, so I moved back into my parents' house, which I was completely disconnected from them like for a while because I was angry at the time. Like I was kicked out when I was 18 and just kind of like I'm like, geez, man, it's like nobody loved me or whatever. Like. Yeah. These are supposed to be my parents. I thought this was, so that's kind of how it was. But luckily, they let me back in. And then a few short months after, I actually just I called Angela and I'm like, yo, just come here. And I'm not going to ask my parents anything about this. I'm just going to have you show up and be like, hey, she's here from Montana, just like visiting. But she's just going to stay here for a little bit. But that ended up being like 6 months or whatever, and like my mom started dude, you know what I mean. My mom starts getting pissed, and so eventually she had to like go back home and stuff. But like then we got another band house with the guys that I did that bike trip with, and finally like we had agreed that like we were gonna start like dating and stuff around that time. So her and I dated like shortly after that bike trip for a solid 3 years. Where we we're fully living together and all that stuff. Eventually we got our own place together, just her and I. But unfortunately, there was a point in time where we were both just sort of drifting away from each other. Sure. And we ended up splitting up for about 2 years actually, where we just didn't talk at all. And I had to grow up and so did she. And eventually, I had sent her actually that album that you were referring to, the one that like disappeared when you went to look for it. And so I sent her that album like just as sort of a cryptic like message. Like I just like dropped a link in like her inbox or whatever. And so of course we started talking again, and then one thing leads to another. And so we get back together, and then it started getting more serious because it's like we already experienced like the failure. I don't know if it was failure, if that's the word. We experienced like the disconnection, and we knew what it was like to not be together at that point, which was the first time that it happened. But then I felt like just the absence of that. We both definitely like missed it, and so then. I was already living in Chicago at this point when I had dropped the DM, but and then so we ended up getting married, and it's been 4 years ago.
Wait, was she back in Montana then when you dropped it?
She moved back to she has family in Spokane, Washington.
That's even farther.
So, It is. So there was a couple of times I had gone out there too. Like it wasn't just like, hey, like let's do this again, like over a phone call. Like, I had to do some courtship and stuff. Like I had to work for it a little bit. But,
also, did you say Spokane?
Yeah.
Is that how it's pronounced?
Wait, yeah. What did you think it was pronounced as?
Spokane.
I mean, why debate anything? Just Google it. I don't know.
Yeah.
She calls it Spokane. Everybody from there calls it Spokane.
Yeah, well, that's why I would trust her. That's like people call Illinois, and I'm like, that's not what it is.
I mean, I don't know.
It doesn't
trust,
matter.
I trust that too. It's like whatever the locals call
Yeah,
it.
it's not. It's words are words. It doesn't matter. But
No, I think I used to call it Spokane too. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, until you heard her, and you're like, oh, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So, I love so much of this story. My favorite part is the fact that you just call her and you're like, just move here. I'm not going to tell my parents. It'll be fine. And I love that story because she was like, sounds good.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what it's funny because like we've always been kind of how do I describe? We've always kind of been the naughty kids. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we're both just very free spirited people.
Right.
And very creative, open-minded and stuff. But to me, I'm like, I don't want to give my parents the option to think about it. Like, I'm going to be like, well, look, she just came here from like 5 states away. What are you just going to tell her to go home? That's not fair. So it was a pro move, to be honest with you, because, I mean,
it is a pro move.
I mean, it eventually, you know, we had to, like, you know, alter things a bit. But, I mean,
sure.
I mean, what parents want their kids just having sex in their house, you know? So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's just
it's funny to me too that you just weren't sure you'd be allowed back in, so your parents just barely love you, and you're like, I'm going to bring another adult in.
Yeah, like, look, yeah. Sometimes you got to push the buttons a little. You got to press a little bit just to kind of get people to love you a little deeper. I don't know. There's something about that in a way.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a crazy thing. Now that I look back on it, these things happen. It's like sometimes I don't really think about it, but. I mean,
well, I love it because from the outside looking in, you guys 100% do seem like the same annoying, free-spirited people, and I mean that in a loving way. Mm-hmm. Like, where it's, you know, you're very flowy and free, but also, like, over the last few years, it seems like you've also balanced each other out and are evolving together, where you're quote-unquote adulting, but still able to maintain who you are as people, and that's awesome to watch.
Yeah, and I think... I mean, and even like, so she didn't like adopt my last name. Like she kept her name is still what it always was, Angela Salmon. Yeah. But you know, there was struggles in there too, of course.
Sure.
Because I feel like sometimes we were both like very similar, but to the point where like we weren't able to kind of like see like what those next steps were because it's like how are you supposed to see something outside of the lens that you see it through? Right. I guess. And so we had to kind of like actively like try to like learn how to argue in certain ways. I mean,
right. Well, that's where communication is critical because you can't see beyond yourself, right? You need somebody that you trust to be like, this is what is actually happening. And you're like, oh shit, is that what I'm doing? Oh no.
Or I mean, and it depends on the scenario. It could be all kinds of different things. And
sure.
I think too, like some of it is like, how like yeah, of course, like, you know, it could be an accountability thing, like, you know, what, like when you're trying to be like what are you doing and everything, but also to me it's a matter of like how do you show up for your partner and how do you check in with them and how do you give them the things that they need in the ways that they need it, because sometimes like as humans, like we don't even know like what we do need, like, and we like her and I have very different upbringings. Like she was more like left alone, like constantly,
right.
Where I was, I mean, just in chaos. So like sometimes I mean, at a certain point, those two paths like actually cross, like where it's like you notice these things even as like even in your early 30s or whatever. Like you notice things that come up and you're like, wait, what did I just say? Or like, you know, like because then I had to catch myself sometimes too, like just being like, okay, I'm overreacting to this, or like I'm trying to like, even there'd be times I'd be mad about something with her, but then like I'd be like, well, why does she think that? And try to like share her experience with her. I think more so, because it's just like, I don't know, it's just like the compassion around it too, where you're like you understand, especially when you know somebody for that long, like you actually start to understand their story.
Yeah.
And then that way you can understand like how to connect a little deeper, or even like understand some of the behaviors and stuff, to where it's not just like, you know, calling each other out and stuff like that all the time. It's like doing so out of love too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's the evolution part where you evolve as a couple, because like we evolve as people constantly, and then when you meet somebody, you hope to evolve as a couple as well. And I feel like that's exactly what you're talking about, is being able to kind of show up. Showing up is huge, I think, in a relationship.
I mean, to me, it's everything. Because like if you're not building your relationship around trust, I just think it's kind of bound to crumble at some point, because everybody wants to feel safe. And you know, that's complex, because everybody, you know, and it's like we were talking about earlier, there's like triggers sometimes that happen, or there's times that, you know, you're gonna see an ugly side of me that I get embarrassed, of course, around it, and I'll try to improve and make those things happen less frequently. But there's times I was always an angry kid. Sometimes I say the wrong thing if I lose my temper or something like that, or, you know, like sometimes I got to just get out of the house because I can't even stand to, you know, be in the argument or whatever. But I mean, showing up, I mean, that's pretty much the core of it, really. But I mean, even that itself is kind of nuanced. One
of the things that I admire and I'm so proud of you for too is like, because, you know, we come from very different walks of life, but we're both broken in the same way from how we came up. And we've also come to a point in our lives somewhere along our journey where we stopped hating the world and blaming the world, and we took responsibility for our own piece of it and decided to be different. Like, that doesn't mean we don't trip up, and it's not an ebb and flow, but it just means that we're taking responsibility for what we can do, and we're moving forward and letting this bullshit stay where it is.
And yeah, I mean, and I think above all else, it is like, okay, I look at it like love in general, like, and it's love of anything that you have, love of your partner, of your friends, of your music, or your career, whatever it is. And love at the core of it is a choice. I mean, I don't care what anybody says around that, like, and choosing love is what makes it work. And, you know, that's kind of why I translated that into, you know, working the last 2 years to kind of refine my process for my album I put out. And that's why I decided to come back to her and I's relationship and just try a little harder, because it's like you feel it when it's there, like you feel love.
Yeah.
And I feel like the tough part for a lot of people is that choice of like, yeah, like showing up and like, you know, sometimes you have to compromise on certain things, like, you know, like that's part of like making choices, because like when you make choices, it's not always going to go exactly how you want it. That's just not how life works. And I mean, you know, for us and the things that her and I have built together, I mean, it's been a choice. I mean, there's been times that we kind of forgot that it was a choice, and that it felt like, you know, we're having a hard time, so let's just quit, you know. But
yeah.
I mean, ultimately it's like, I feel like as long as like I don't quit, like she's actually not going to quit, even if we're like having a fight or something like that. Like, so as long as like, you know, even if I'm mad, like I might need time to go, you know, cool off or whatever, step outside, go on a walk or whatever, but like I'm still going to come back, and I'm still going to like try to just, you know, even use like a calm voice with you, or just something that is like more soothing to you, so that we can actually connect, because I care. Right. And like I always want to just like fight for that. And I don't know, sometimes it feels like it's that you know, you can lose like why you're fighting for something, but I don't know, like I've always been sort of resilient in that way, I guess. Where I'm just like, if I love it, I'm just gonna keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, I feel like too, like being raised in chaos and kind of seeing what you've been through, I feel like it opens your eyes. At some point, the bell goes off, and you're like, okay, I'm, you know, you're rewiring your whole self. What do you suppose is next for you personally, and for you and the missus?
Well, you know, I've been kind of looking at it recently, so I've been working on my own. I've just been doing Uber Eats. Like, I'm the guy that brings you your food, right? People gotta eat. People gotta eat.
I keep a lot of people very well paid doing that, because I never leave the house anymore.
I hear you. I'm in Chicago, so it's just like it's not like a lot of distance. I'm just like, just drive. I mean, it's a pain in the ass, but it's like, what do? I throw on some podcasts.
Yeah, it's mindless. Like it's gotta be easy money.
Exactly. I mean, but it's the thing though. It's like, so I'm like, it's when you do that, you're considered self-employed. Like you don't get a W-2, tax stub or whatever. So like, there's like consequences to that too, because it's easy to just like, I don't know, like put shit on credit cards or whatever. And like, it's like, yeah, I'll worry about that later. It's like, no, dude, you work for yourself. Like you need to like, kind of put all these pieces together. But I think the next step, if anything, is, cause I started to think even recently, I'm like, should I go back into like a 9-to-5 job or like whatever that looks like? I didn't finish any college, so I don't know. But I mean, so I guess at this stage I'm like, well, I kind of want to just like keep buying into my own narrative, and I guess I kind of want to keep believing in myself, really, and doing what I can to make it work. And I mean, you have to adjust how you process information and how you go about solving. Yeah, I mean, the three most important things to me are my relationship, my health, mentally and physically, and my finances. I mean, if I break it down, like those are the things that are essential to me, not having anxious or racing thoughts or anything like that. And so I think just the core foundation of that is going to kind of guide me into the next steps naturally, because I really fucking don't want to go back to like a retail job, even though like I know there's other options. I know I could, go get an IT certification or something like that. But
sure,
I mean, it just goes back to like, I don't know. I've always loved music, so like you gotta, to me, like just keep like fighting for that. And so like I guess I'm gonna try to start, helping friends with podcasts. And I already put the album out, so I have content to give people that I'm actually proud of at this point. And I mean, there's a lot of opportunities, I feel like. And actually, my wife yesterday, she has found a connection kind of magically through her work that her boss, her wife actually like works in the film industry, and like apparently like Angela gave her my new album like a link for it, and her boss showed her wife, and apparently she really liked it. So I would really like to do like kind of get like that Nick Cave, Warren Ellis kind of have that other approach to music, where it's not just like rock and roll or like industrial, or even like without vocals. Like I love singing, but like I always love the idea of capturing like just the ambience of a room. Like if I could just visually watch something, and like I love like being able to just like sit down to a piano while I watch a scene unfold. So I feel like for me, like I know it's going to take time and it's going to take patience, but that's where I'm hoping. But her and I, like it's like between Angela and I, like I feel like it's just a matter of showing up for each other, really. And I feel like her and I have like done a ton of homework and put a ton of effort into like what we have now. So now it feels like more like safe foundationally for us to move forward and just basically just be there like for each other. Like whatever she decides to do or I decide to do, like just knowing that the other person's got your back is important. But I mean, man, that takes work. It definitely does not happen overnight.
Right, that's true. Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Everything sounds great. I'm excited. I want to hear you score something so bad, because I love that whole, like you just said, I love the idea of cutting vocals and just capturing pure emotion with just sound, like music. I think that's awesome. I wish I had something that I could send you just to have you score it. Like I wish I was made a scene or something.
So, hey, look, we inspire each other every day. Maybe you'll send me something, and I'll just do the damn thing.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And I want to end on that. We inspire each other every day. Thank you so much for taking the time, man, and sitting down with me. It's awesome to catch up. Your life is insane, and I love it.
Man, I love you, man, and keep doing it. I can't wait to actually listen to all your other episodes. I've been a little busy, but I'm definitely going to catch up with it soon. I appreciate you having me on.
Yep, love you too, brother. Talk to you soon. Later.
All right, see ya.